We're back. It's working again. We're live. Episode 4, but who's counting, right? I think we'll be at about 40 before you know it. The number of people we've got lined up to come talk to you. There's going to be conversations like this all the way through till well into June. And I hope you've enjoyed the guests that we've been speaking with so far. Good Heart Sanctuary, Louis Ahoyas, and the wonderful Peter Egan a couple of days ago. I've so enjoyed talking to all of them, and I hope that they've inspired you as much as they inspire me. I just find them fascinating, and I find them inspiring, and I find that the way that they're just driven by all the compassion that they exude. I find that really reassuring, especially in this strange time that we're living in right now. What a strange time, goodness me. Such a different world that we're living in, and it's with that in mind that I've set these talks up, and the aim, of course, as I've said before, being to keep us together, and us being the animal welfare, animal conservation, or just compassionate minded people together, because I know that, like me, you guys will be feeling a little bit sort of disconnected. At least it's possible that we'll be feeling a little bit disconnected, and we don't want that to happen, especially because right now the rescuers, the heroes, the conservationists, can you believe that? My doorbell just rang. Let's just silence that right now. And I won't be answering it. That's not our guest. Our guest is online. That literally was my doorbell. So yeah, we really need to keep our team focused and together right now, because of course we're all being impacted by this, and charities, rescues, sanctuaries are absolutely no exception to that. And so right now, more than ever, I feel like they need our help. And the best way that I can help is to give them a platform from which to shine a light on what they do. And that could be some of the conservation organizations that you know, and it could be some guests like I'm going to introduce you to tonight, who are people who I think are leading the way for the future generations to take things forward. And I find all of them inspirational. And the aim, as always, is for us to find people who inspire us, and together to empower us collectively to be able to stay engaged, stay active, stay focused, and do things that will make a difference. And we're going to talk about that tonight, and there's a couple of things we can do. But specifically regarding tonight, I'm very excited to introduce you to someone who's, again, I mean, this is another guest whose list of skills and talents and accolades are just so long, I can't possibly list them all. But an incredibly inspirational young woman who, among other things, is a wildlife presenter, photographer, filmmaker, first degree honors biologist, zoologist, and a business owner, and that is Roxy the Zoologist.
Hello.
and we're a big fan of your jumper.
Yes, we've got matching vibes tonight.
Absolutely, we're flying the flag. Oh, and for any of our friends around the world, in particular the US, a jumper is a sweater. I know that you'll find that very endearing. Roxy, thank you so much for joining me. It's really nice to see you.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. And you know, as I was just saying, in terms of the guests that we've had on so far, including the Good Heart Animal Sanctuary, and a sanctuary up in Worcestershire, and Louis Ahoyas, a filmmaker, so someone who no doubt you have something in common with, and Peter Egan, who I imagine will be very keen to hear what you've got to say following our chat. Where are we now? Sunday? So yeah, Friday that I spoke to Peter. And what I love about the fact that you're my guest tonight is the fact that, among other things, it just shows this incredible breadth that we have in terms of the people involved in the cause that we're collectively all a part of, separated by thousands of miles and by decades and different skills and disciplines. And you've got such an incredibly impressive list of talents and activities that you personally seem to make it your business to drive forward to make the world a better place for animals and for the environment. And that, as I say, includes wildlife presenting, filmmaking, photography. I'm really keen to know, how did you become this person? What inspired you to do all this?
Well, I was really lucky to be brought up by a family who loved animals. My mum actually brought us up vegetarian from birth, and throughout all of our life, all of our holidays were kind of based around seeing animals. That was the thing we did as a family. We didn't have fancy cars or bags or whatever. It was always about what animals can we go and see next. And one year in particular, I think I was 6 or 7, we went to Bird Island, which is in the Seychelles. And there was this man working on the island called Robbie, and he was a conservationist. And we joined a group to release sea turtle hatchlings back into the ocean. And he asked everyone to wait at the beach whilst he went to collect them from their nest. And little 6-year-old me just took off my shoes and ran after him. And he picked me up, put me on his shoulders, and took me with him. And when I got back, I said to Mum and Dad, I want to be a conservationist.
You were 6?
Yeah.
6 years old.
And I think that kind of experience firsthand, seeing these beautiful little baby creatures that I was allowed to scoop out of the nest and put into a bucket and feel like I was doing something really important, that really ignited then what came on from that.
How incredible. So, I mean, you know, at 6, I think I was as likely I wanted to be a turtle as a conservationist. It's incredible that you had that clarity of vision and thought. And it's not just something that, it wasn't like, you know, well, at least when I was a kid, all kids said they either wanted to be an astronaut or a train driver, ironically. And most didn't become that. But it's not just something you said and, you know, you grew out of. It's what you've become. Incredible.
Yeah. And even kind of before that, my mum has stories of me being at nursery and them going around the circle and what's everyone's favorite animal, and it'd be cat, dog, and then it would get to me and I'd say hippopotamus. I just had to go that extra mile.
Good for you. Good for you. So, of all the things that you do, what would you describe yourself as?
I think an activist.
Okay.
Because through all the work I do, whether that be photography, filmmaking, even right through to my business, that's all based on wanting to inspire change in other people, which is to me what activism is.
Where do you think that comes from? Because I mean, these are leaps. It's an incredible enough story to, as Shaz has just said, a beautiful story that you know you've at 6 you knew from your experience with animals that you wanted to be a conservationist, and you are. But that's what it's another step from that to decide that you want to inspire other people to essentially be the best version of themselves for the benefit of the animals. I mean, that's how did that happen? That's another huge leap.
Yeah, I don't know. I think probably because the way we were brought up at the time was so uncommon. When we'd go to kids' houses after school, they'd phone up my mum saying, your daughter's a vegetarian, we don't know what to do with her. And kind of always having to not defend myself, but explain to people why I was doing things so that they could see more my mindset and we'd have more of a mutual understanding. And I think that then just carried through, and I've always wanted to make a difference, and when I've said I'm going to do this, then that's like literally on my agenda to make sure that happens.
For you, lucky us.
Kind of carried on through all of my work that I now do. It's just what's most important to me, I guess.
And you within that activism, I've tried to introduce some of the things that you do, and you'll touch upon them in our conversation, of course, with things like photography, which I can't wait to share some of your photos because they are absolutely wonderful. And we've got another little surprise to share with you about those photos as well, everybody. And filmmaking, we're going to talk about the film that you're embarking on. But is there one discipline over another that you feel is your calling, or is it just something that you love all of it and you just want to do anything that gives to the cause?
I think it's more that I just want to do anything that gives to the cause. Originally, when I started doing my zoology degree, I always thought about presenting because I went to stage school when I was little, and it was kind of a way of combining the the dancing, singing, acting with this passion I had for animals and the natural world. But then I picked up my camera and I just absolutely loved doing that as well. I was saying to you the other day, it's kind of almost like meditation for me. I am out in the field and I don't need the toilet, I don't need food, I don't need water. I just kind of go into this bubble of happiness and just like so in tune with what's going on around me. And I just find enjoyment out of kind of anything really to do with animals and nature.
I mean, that resonates very deeply with me. I'm pretty confident in saying that there will be a whole lot of people, especially the photographers listening, that will absolutely be able to relate to that, because there is, as you say, a meditative quality to it when you're out in nature. In particular, it's for me only true of nature. It's not true if I'm either filming or photographing somewhere in a city. I absolutely don't feel that same meditative quality to it. But in nature, I get lost. I can lose hours and days. In fact, it's the first thing I'm going to do once the lockdown is lifted sufficiently that I can get on a plane, is I'm going to take myself off on a 2-week photography holiday to just do exactly what you just described, because it does have such a soul cleansing quality to it, doesn't it?
It really, really does.
So speaking of that, I can't decide what to talk about first, because you've got this, but I think, you know, the one of the key things that I think that we can all do as photographers is show intimate glimpses of some of the animals that we aim to protect, or indeed the environments that we aim to protect. But in particular, I think for both of us, it's much more about the animals, the wildlife photography. And I've got some of yours to share on screen, which I can't wait to do. But tell me about your wildlife photography, how that got started, and what your ambitions are in that regard, while I get the content up and ready to rock and roll.
Well, I got my first proper camera, I like to call it, when I graduated from uni, which was 2 years ago now. And during that time, 3 days after graduation, I actually moved up to Scotland to work on a boat as a biologist. So all of my initial experience with my camera was up in Scotland, and I was loving taking pictures of wildlife, but my photos were just of what I was seeing, and I was, sharing these photos, but I had no real intention with what I was sharing. I was just like, hey, look at this cool animal.
Right.
And then I actually listened to a podcast with Andy Parkinson, who is a fellow vegan wildlife photographer, and Matthew Moran. And they were talking about whether you can call yourself a conservationist if you're not a vegan, and had this kind of whole debate about it on their platform. And then I kind of started to realize the power of social media and storytelling through photography. And it was kind of at that point I really changed my aim with my photography work, and the caption as well, thinking about the language choice I was using, and really trying to inspire some sort of change, even if that's just inspiring people to fall in love with these animals and think, these are beautiful, I wouldn't want to hurt them. Because I think that's, if that love and passion is ignited, that's kind of the start for then everything else that comes with it.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's a really, really beautiful sentiment. And thank you for doing it as well, and making that effort. Where this incredible stag we're looking at, where was this taken?
That's Bushy Park.
Bushy Park, there you go. So, we talk about nature and cities and the distinction I just drew between them. But Bushy Park, for anyone who doesn't know, is in Teddington, West London, or just outside of West London. It's just down the road from me. It's very similar to Richmond Park, and not too far away from Richmond Park, in which you can also see deer like this. In fact, you may have seen a couple of weeks ago a live broadcast that I put out when I was sitting in Richmond Park, sitting because I'd gone for a run, which has been the first time in some time. So I ended up sitting. That was my exercise, and I suddenly found myself surrounded by fallow deer. So in Richmond and in Teddington, Bushy Park and Richmond Park, you get to see things like this, and some more that I'm going to share. But it's did you go out looking for this in Bushy Park specifically? Because obviously I know it's something that you can guarantee seeing in both of those places.
Yeah, it's actually a place I used to go with my nana a lot when I was younger. And through dance, actually, I had a couple of operations on my feet about a year ago and couldn't walk anywhere. but I still wanted to get outside with my camera. So
Right.
Mum took me in the wheelchair on my crutches because she knew if we went to Bushy Park, I'll still see beautiful animals. I can still do my photography, but I won't have to walk too far. So that's
Incredible.
kind of why we went there, and it was perfect.
How wonderful. And I'm going to hasten. I'm going to hazard a guess that that wasn't the case with this photograph.
No,
I'm sure you didn't get wheeled up there.
Island.
Where's this Skoma?
Yes, so just off the coast of Wales.
And
One of my
this is a
favorite places
puffin.
in the world.
How incredible. What an experience to see that, because that's something that's on my list for sure. I'd love to go see this. Not just Skoma specifically, but the puffins. I mean, look at that beautiful animal. These are incredible photos, by the way. Absolutely beautiful. And the reason why what made my mind up in terms of talking about the photos first is I said to you guys watching that there's a surprise for you. In fact, there was a surprise for me. I'm very, very grateful for the fact that on Friday, after the broadcast with Peter Egan, one very kind viewer contacted me asking about the rhino photo you can see behind me, and asked if it was one that I'd taken and whether it was for sale. And it is indeed one that I took. It's taken in Olpejeta in Kenya, and it's a rhino standing in. You can't probably make it out in the glare, but it's in the silhouette of Mount Kenya. And in actual fact, it's not for sale, simply for the simple reason that that was one of the photos that we utilized previously for, I think, a charity fundraiser where it's a limited edition. So I stated at the time it's one of 5 that I'll print, and so this is the one that I'll make available for that very kind viewer. And the reason I wanted to mention it tonight is because it gave me an idea, which I've shared with Roxy, and that Roxy is also keen to put this out there. So I'm not going to sell that photo to anyone. We've made it very clear that none of this is about fundraising, because I think it's not fair at this stage. I think, we're all in a very strange time, which for huge numbers of people is affecting us financially. The last thing I want to do is come online every other day and say, hey, give us your money. However, if you're going to get something for it, then I think it's possibly something that people would like to do. However, I don't want anything for it. I agreed with the kind viewer who asked about this rhino photo, that if she's prepared to contribute to one of the 4 charities that I'll be introducing you to that deal with rhino, that I will send her a print. In fact, I'll send her this one because, as I say, it's a limited edition. And that just gave me the idea that if in the course of this series of conversations, I'll share some of my photos as well, as we're doing with Roxy's photos tonight, and that if anybody would like to if anyone would like to buy one, the deal is, as long as we're covering the cost of the print and the postage, you get to choose what it costs you, and that money will go directly to the charity of your choice. So we'll do that throughout, and I'll share some of my photos as we go through the series, and maybe even a couple today. But more importantly, Roxy, God bless her, when I put this idea to her, said that works. And I'm assuming, Roxy, the photographs that I'm sharing with everybody are photographs that you'd be willing to do that with.
Yes, definitely.
And potentially more. And that one of the things we're going to talk about with Roxy this evening is an incredible, worthy film endeavor that she's undertaking, which is something I won't steal your thunder for, but I will say this, is that anyone who wants to purchase one of these photographs, it will contribute to that filmmaking fund. And when we talk about what that film is about, you'll understand why that's a very worthy cause. And the way that I want to do this, because of the fact that, again, I really absolutely categorically don't want to turn this into an auction or a fundraising request, is you can contact me. In this instance, with Roxy's photos, you can contact Roxy. We'll be sharing on screen. In fact, so I'll do it right now. You'll be seeing a number of ways in which you can contact Roxy and request these images. And all of the money, as I say, will go directly to, in this case, Roxy's film. And in my case, all of the charities that I'll be introducing you to over the course of this series. So with that, Roxy, why don't you tell us? I'll share another one of your photos. Please tell me. I've got to ask you about this absolutely, because I know you took this one very recently. Please tell me about the baby bunny.
Oh my gosh, that's been one of my favorite moments of lockdown. So these beautiful bunnies actually emerged from under my shed in my garden last week. 4 of them just started coming out and hopping around the grass like crazy. They can't sit still for a minute. And at first I thought I'd have to photograph them through the kitchen window so that I wouldn't scare them. But it's amazing that they're born with this. They don't have fear of humans innately. It's something that they learn and is taught to them over time. So I could literally just lay on the grass with them, having them hopping around me, no care in the world, and just allowing me to have this peep into their life, which was so, so special.
How beautiful. Amazingly enough, and this, by the way, isn't rehearsed or planned, my friend Lynn has just asked this question. And I assume you can see that, Roxy.
Yeah, I just saw that.
So why don't we use that as a segue into you talking about your film?
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently on the Masters in Wildlife Filmmaking at UE, which is a course that's run in conjunction with the BBC. And for our final project, we basically can make a film of our choice. So I'll have my own film this time next year, which sounds a bit crazy to say. But, well, I was actually supposed to be heading there next week. But when this is all over, I will be heading out to Sumatra, hence the relevance of this comment.
Thank you, Lynn. And that really wasn't rehearsed, folks. That's just a genuine question from Lynn, who herself is an incredible activist, specifically, well, focused on all things, but specifically the orangutan, amazingly enough. So I need to put you guys in touch.
Yeah,
carry on, Roxy, sorry.
Yeah, so I will be heading to Sumatra to tell a story about the conflict that's occurring between humans, specifically durian farmers, and the orangutans, and the work being done to help put a stop to this conflict and kind of provide a long-term solution to the conflict that's occurring out there. Because obviously orangutans are a story that's been covered a lot by conservation, but the issue is just so multifaceted, and it has all of these stems. And as amazing as all the rescue efforts are, obviously that's not the ideal situation. We shouldn't have to be rescuing and releasing these beings. So by trying to put in place these measures, it kind of stops that conflict before the rescue is needed in the first place.
It's such an emotive issue. The entire, Sumatra, the orangutans, the palm oil plantations, the human wildlife conflict. It's one of those almost like plastic pollution that everyone's aware of because of the palm oil thing. But there's some specifics, aren't there, about the palm oil trade. It's not just as simple as saying palm oil is bad, eradicate all palm oil. Can you explain a little bit about that for people?
Yeah, well, the issue is now that there are so many palm oil plantations existing. That land is now destroyed. The peatlands have been destroyed, and palm oil in itself, it actually has a really high yield to space and water ratio. Mm-hmm. The issue is just the scale that we're producing this oil and the price at which we're producing it as well, because not only does that make it really easily accessible, but it has a whole stem of human rights issues surrounding palm oil as well, which is something that's not often talked about because of the focus on orangutans. Rightly so, we're destroying their home, but kind of all of these stems of this issue that surround the palm oil debate. And some of the workers are earning $5 a week, if that, on these palm oil plantations, which isn't even enough to feed their families properly. And, I want this story to be one which covers things that we can all do to make a difference, because I think it's very easy to point fingers and say, this is all palm oil's fault. why are they being allowed to cut down the rainforest? But us as consumers have so much choice. It's palm oil, it's paper, it's wood pulp, it's mining, it's development. That's all of these causes are causing their home to be cut down. Obviously, palm oil is a massive factor, but it's not the only factor. And kind of mixing that story of the people that I'll be working with there, the animals I'll be with, but also things that we can all do from wherever we are in the world to really make a difference to the lives of these beings and so many other beings as well.
I mean, it's such a key thing that you're touching upon there, in terms of the human issues too, because of course, as we know, any of us who deal with wildlife conservation issues know, one of the key issues or challenges we face is getting people engaged in the issue, for the simple reason that people are generally focused on people. And so, as well as it being a crucial issue to understand and address, it's something that actually benefits us if we're showing the ways in which these endeavors protect people as well as animals. We get engagement from the vast majority of people who would otherwise perhaps ignore us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really important to tell the human story as well, because that's often something that's neglected as well. And I really think that for conservation to work, it has to go hand in hand with working with local communities, and even global perspectives need to change for conservation to really have a long-lasting impact, and an impact that's felt across the whole globe as well. Absolutely.
The other point that raises, Lynn, is that I think the answer today is no. Roxy doesn't have any photographs of Sumatran orangutans, but that will change, right? Because obviously you'll be getting some wonderful photos of them while you're out there, no doubt. So watch this space.
Yeah, I'll be going as soon as it's safe to do so, for both humans and orangutans alike, because
amazing,
it's a scary time for apes as well.
Yeah, very much so. And it's again, it's a really fortunate and convenient segue for me, but it's also indicative of just how much you're doing. I put Alison's question up there about palm oil or the point about palm oil being in so many products, and as per Roxy's point just now about, the yield from palm oil is so vast. It's in fact 4 times greater than the nearest competitor, which is soy. I think, Roxy, you may have just said that. And clearly, as per Roxy's point, you'd be decimating an awful lot more habitat in order to make up the shortfall that you'd suffer if palm oil was suddenly wiped out. So it's very, very important to be using sustainable palm oil. But the reason why this is another segue is because among all the other things that you do, which is very much along the lines of what we're talking about here, avoiding certain products with palm oil, or making sure you do purchase products with sustainable palm oil, you've gone one step further. And oh, by the way, the film is called One Step Beyond, isn't it? Interestingly enough, that wasn't a deliberate little play on words there, but you've gone one step beyond in that regard as well, with another business that you run. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, so in my final year of university, I wrote some New Year's resolutions, and one was that I really wanted to make something that helped create change. And a week later, I came down and I had this business all set up, ready to go, which is Zephyr Eco Market. And it's basically a range of different products which allow people to make swaps in their lives to something more sustainable. So it's plastic-free, chemical-free, palm oil-free, vegan, basically just things that we normally pick up because that's what we've been taught to do without even thinking, like soaps and toothbrushes, because that's what's widely available to us. But making kind of this one place that's really easy to choose items that are more sustainable and better for animals and our planet. And Zephyr, actually, it's a breeze that travels through the environment without causing any form of disturbance, which I feel is like a beautiful way to reflect how I believe we should live our lives.
Amazing.
Kind of not like hurricanes destroying everything in our paths. We're obviously going to have an impact, but keeping that impact as small as we possibly can.
What an absolutely wonderful name, and what a wonderful story for behind choosing the name. Here's the web address, or here's the website, and you guys can see the web address at the bottom there, which no doubt Giles will share into the comments, so you can click it as a link, because as always the banner that I put at the bottom of the screen there is just a visual rather than something you can click on, but we'll put it into the comments of the Facebook stream so that you can actually click on it and go visit Zephyr Supermarket. What a beautiful word, and what a fabulous reason to call it that.
Yeah, I found that word and I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect.
Great name. So what sort of products I can see right here? Food and drink, home and garden, health and beauty, cleaning. So you've really gone to some trouble in terms of finding these products. So how can people use this website of yours here?
Well, I think it makes things very transparent, because I've kind of done the step of doing all the research of, people sending through products saying that they're vegan, and then me reading through the ingredients and seeing that they have beeswax in, or it's somewhere that you can go and know everything's been properly checked and thought about. And it is hard to change habits. These are things that have been ingrained in us for our whole life. But I think, picking a few things that you see and think, oh, that's really easy. I can change my toothbrush to a bamboo one, or I don't need a bottle of shampoo. I can use a bar. And just starting small and seeing kind of what you can do, and then going from there. I think it is a journey, and once you start, you want to do more and more and more, but getting started is often the hard part. And I also work with 2 charities as well. I just saw the banner up there. And One Tree Planted is because of my love of Indonesia, and for every order I plant trees in rainforests in Borneo that have been destroyed by deforestation for palm oil.
So, I mean, this is, as I said at the beginning, my guests inspire me, and I hope that they'll inspire you. And as Karen, my dear friend in LA, has just said, what an exceptional young lady. I mean, this is incredible. This just, the list just goes on. It's not enough that you're making films and taking photographs to protect the animals and try to change things, an activist for the climate. And then creating a business with eco-friendly products, but then we're going to plant a tree as well. I mean, it's just wonderful. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
It's, and the comments coming in absolutely would endorse that.
Comments.
Yeah, I mean, what does someone like you? It's funny. I was just listening to this is going to be a comparison that could make your head swell. So keep it in check, because I was just listening to a podcast earlier. It's actually the Joe Rogan podcast, which is always it's one of the most popular ones out there, I think. And it's actually the second time he's interviewed Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, SpaceX, the Boring Company, which is a genius name, which is the name of the company that's boring a tunnel under Los Angeles to try and relieve some of the traffic. And Joe Rogan was asking him, what does a guy like you, what are you doing? What are you going to do next? This is my question to you. You've literally listed, and I'm not going to say your age, because I wouldn't do that to you, but we can see that you're young. You've achieved more than most people already, and you seem to just be at full steam ahead. What else have you got up your sleeve? What are you planning to do? Like, is there, for example, is there a specific subject matter or a species that you'd like to cover in your photography, your filmmaking, or any kind of activism specifically?
Well, I definitely want to go down the filmmaking route more so now, because I think for most people, a film is a really good way of getting someone to connect, because you tell more of a story often with a film than you do with a photograph. I feel like with a photograph, you kind of have to look more into it, whereas a film, you can kind of lay out the whole story then and there. So I definitely want to go down the filmmaking route, but I really want to focus on digital platforms, because you can have this voice online that you might not necessarily be able to have on broadcast TV, for example. And
for the old fogies like me, when you say digital platforms, what sort of stuff do you mean? YouTube,
like YouTube, Netflix,
right.
Quibi, and telling stories that I feel need to be told for animals that kind of are being overlooked, or things we might not necessarily even know that we're doing, and talking about veganism and the illegal pet trade and fur farms, and that's the kind of route I want to go down, but focusing on the positives and the things that people can do rather than just doom and gloom.
Right. Yeah. Well, and again, that resonates deeply with me, and that's as we've said from the beginning, with regards to this series of live broadcasts. Obviously, we realize we have to touch upon subject matter which is emotive, which is painful, horrific. The conversation with Peter Egan. We all, even recalling it, you can see how deeply it affected him when he saw the dog meat markets in South Korea and Indonesia. This is serious stuff we're dealing with, but ultimately, I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't just think, I know we have to put a positive step. We have to put a positive foot forward. We have to provide people with hope and with empowerment and a can-do attitude and ability to take these problems on and go into it feeling like we can address it and win, because we can. And as per Ariana's comment right there on screen, I think one of the most powerful things that you do with all of this example setting that you're doing is hopefully exactly that. You're setting an example for the younger generations. I don't think they're so inclined to listen to an old git like me, but someone that they can relate to like you. I feel strongly they would be inspired by, in the same way as they are with Greta Thunberg or Bella Lack and the various young activists that we know and love. And this is what it strikes me you're doing, and it's quite incredible.
Yeah, I think it's about making the conversation normal and cool as such, rather than this other that people kind of don't want to be associated with because it's so different from the norm, and seeing that there are people of all ages doing it, rather than just kind of this stereotype that's often given to vegan activists that, is just ridiculous, but kind of making people realize that anyone of any age, any background, any work background, everyone can get involved in some way, shape or form. And it's fun, and there's an amazing community of people as well. And I think that's a really nice aspect of it all.
Really is. And it's kind of ironic that the fact that everything and everyone involved wins, it's ironic that isn't enough, because you're quite right. There needs to be elements of the human psyche have to be accommodated, have to be stroked, in terms of feeling like you're part of a community that's cool and it's not geeky. But I do think things have evolved over the last few years, and I know for me personally, being an older generation than you, and so I wish I'd been involved in the vegan movement for longer, but I haven't. But I do know, regardless of having not been involved in it until more recently, that we're seeing an incredible transition take place right now. Things are evolving faster now than they ever have before. And we had Louis on not so long ago giving us that wonderful analogy about, you don't water boils at 100 degrees, but that doesn't mean you have to have everyone at 100 degrees to reach tipping point. It means that you have to have 10 people at 10 degrees. And that beautiful analogy that he gave in that regard, what I'm really fascinated to know, and this is a tough question, I don't know if there's any key answer to it, so good luck, but I'm just fascinated to know what, from your perspective as being in that younger generation, you're living that life, you're seeing, you've just come through school and university much more recently than me. What your experience is so clearly different from the experience that even 5 or 10 years ago. What do you think is driving this change? What's happening from a younger generation's perspective?
I think it's kind of that realization that everyone can have a voice and everyone can use that voice. And, I guess, social media and platforms online get all this bad press all the time. But actually, it gives people a platform, whether that's with 10 followers or 10,000 followers. If you're stood in a room in front of 10 people and then you inspire those 10 people to change, that's really empowering. So I think for younger people that are using social media a lot, it gives them that platform and that confidence to speak about these things, which then kind of goes into their daily lives, whether that be talking to their supervisor at university or their parents back home, and then inspiring them to change as well. And my journey really started at university when I was not agreeing with things that I was seeing and feeling the confidence then to speak up about it, and then thinking, well, if I can say this at uni, then what change could I have out of uni?
And you've really taken the bull by the horns, and that's it's terrible. The other day, Louis said that's opening a whole can of worms, and then he stopped himself and said, and I'm going to stop myself with taking the bull by the horns. But you know what I mean. You've really, really run with the ball. You've gone from university to absolutely immersing yourself fully in this cause, and it's incredible. And I'm seeing the comments coming through where people are so grateful for that amazing young lady, as Helen says. It's absolutely true, and it's justified. And so, one of the other things that we've already touched upon is your film, and this is the point that I was making about Roxy's incredible photos, which I will put back on screen in just a second. In the case of Roxy's photos, if anyone's interested in any of these beautiful images, which I'm just going to get back up on screen. In fact, I'll tell you what. Let me just. I'm assuming you're not limiting this to like or you're absolutely entitled to, of course, if you choose to say this is a limited edition. But I would just like to. I'd like one of those, please. So I'll donate 50 quid to your Indiegogo fund for the film, if that's okay, on top of whatever it costs to get one of those, if I may.
Thank you.
No. Thank you. Because that's far too cute to not have. That reminds me a little bit of Kiki, my visiting squirrel. Roxy and I actually had a quick conversation prior to going live with you guys, where you can probably see that I'm a little bit warm, because I have to have the balcony door shut, because if I don't, Kiki will come in and we will interrupt this. And as much as we all love animals and we want Kiki, I don't want to interrupt the really important topics that Roxy's covering. But I don't know what this little baby's name is, but we'll find one. And I'd love to buy a copy, please. So if any of you guys would like to buy any of these images, and I'll share some of the other ones again, you can contact Roxy directly using the links that we've been sharing. Actually, talk about younger generations. Let me share this banner, because this will make the old fogies like me laugh. But let me put one of the other photos up while I'm doing it. Let's get the puffin back up. There we are. And then while we're doing that, let's this is one. So I busily put people's links in, so I can share things like the Facebook page and the Zephyr Market web address you're looking at right there. And this is one that Roxy had to talk me through. I'm sure a lot of you are cooler than me and you know exactly what TikTok is, but that for me is just a sound a clock used to make when they were old school.
Honestly, it's a good platform, especially for inspiring younger people. I think the average age users is 14-year-olds. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that explains why you're using it and doing so very effectively, and it also explains why I've got no idea what it is. The reason I mention it is because you can follow Roxy there on TikTok. You can follow Roxy there on Twitter. You can follow Roxy on Facebook, as well as the Facebook link that I'm showing you right now. You'll obviously, any of the posts you've seen for this live broadcast had Roxy the Zoologist's link right there to her page. So if there's any of these beautiful images that interest you, and keeping in mind that you're not paying myself or Roxy for these images, you'll be paying towards the film that Roxy's going to make in order to shine a light on the situation in Sumatra and helping the people and the orangutans in the process. So that's the idea that very kind viewer gave me when she asked to buy the rhino photo behind me there. So Roxy, I I can't thank you enough. I mean, I think you're incredible. You're an inspiration. Like I said, all of my guests inspire me, and you do that in droves. You really do. And your photography inspires me. I can't wait to see your film.
Yeah, me too. I just want to get out there now and tell the story and help make a difference.
And I don't doubt you will. And obviously, you know, Giles and I are filmmakers, and if we can help in any way, please don't hesitate to ask, because we'd be honored to help.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for all that you do. I know that I'm echoing the sentiment of everybody watching, because there's some gorgeous comments coming through. And so please keep doing what you do, because we need you. I said when I was talking about this interview with Peter Egan on Friday, I said that what you do more than anything is you give me hope. And I know that will be true for a lot of people watching, because to see somebody really pick up, you know, take the torch and carry it from your age, and with all the disciplines that you're involved in, and the real tangible stuff you're doing, and the real understanding, I have to say, the real understanding of the importance, for example, of, as you described, the importance of community and people. And it's not just about, as much as we love orangutans, it can't just be about that, because we won't succeed. But when it's a collaborative approach, and it benefits people as well as wildlife, as well as habitat, as well as sustainable living for the communities nearby, that's when it works. And you've got a real clear understanding of that. Not just an understanding, you articulate it. Something we've not even talked about tonight.
Filming a workshop run by this man called Jason, where he actually gathers people from his local community and teaches them how to peacefully deter orangutans from the crops. So that will be kind of the focus of my film, the transformation that people go on by taking this workshop.
Amazing. And, you know, just before, I don't want to go without mentioning you, one of the things that you've done is, again, already, as if everything we've talked about isn't enough, and we've not even covered everything, you also speak publicly on behalf of, among others, Greenpeace and Vegfest, don't you? Can you give me a little snippet of what sort of things you've done there?
Kind of starting off talking about my love of animals, but then kind of reminding people that extends to everything that we do, from that be the food that we're eating, the clothes that we're wearing, stuff that we're putting on our hair and our bodies, and reminding people that there's things that we can all do, whether that be from our choices as consumers to the language that we choose to use in our society. And I was telling you the other day about, you know, how it's always easy, if you don't know the gender of another species, to say it, whereas you'd never call another human being it. And consciously making that decision in my head and talking about that in my talks, or not calling other people pigs or cows in a kind of derogatory way, because that kind of devalues that word of another being. So I kind of like to talk about that and just get the cogs going, and hopefully something I say in some way, shape or form will ignite something for someone else and inspire them to kind of start living differently as well.
And it's one of those things that's hard to measure, but I can tell you right now, it's working. You'll be doing that now as we speak, and of course, this is the reason you're on, is because you've been doing this all along. And so I can very confidently say that you'll have changed a lot of minds already. And I've also got some good news for you. Down there.
Amazing, thank you so much.
So Ariana, that's so sweet of you. You'll be able to contact Roxy about that directly. What I've been furiously looking for in the background is something that I'd also love to share with you guys, which I have a video of, and I'm going to try and share that while you're talking. But tell me about your experience at the Gentle Barn.
Oh, yes. So the Gentle Barn is one of the most magical places I've ever been. It's a sanctuary in California that rescues farm animals from slaughter. And when I got there, they'd recently rescued a calf called Ferdinand, and they'd only managed to rescue him and not his mum. So I went in to sit with him and his foster mum called Lucy with my camera, and the lady, they basically, all of the animals have a person that's assigned to them to make sure no one's doing anything which they don't like, if they don't like their ears being touched or something. So she told me that Ferdinand here didn't like people because of the life he'd been brought up with. He was still so untrusting.
Clearly.
But his foster mum actually loved him so much that she started producing her own milk for this baby that wasn't even biologically hers. So I was sat there and I just got to watch him feed off Lucy, and then he starts coming over to me with this milk dripping from his face, and I was sat there thinking, shall I move? They just told me he doesn't like people. And I decided not to move, and this was the reaction that I got, just covered in kisses from this beautiful baby cow. And the lady next to me, who was his carer, she started crying and explaining that, you know, this is part of his healing process and his journey to trusting humans again. And that was honestly one of the most magical moments I've ever had with any other being in my life. I think that will be hard to top.
Well, I think that there's two things about that story that I think are absolutely amazing. One is that, as you said, that the carers who'd been working with Ferdinand for some time warned you that he's not trusting of humans. And they say animals know a good, pure soul. And I think we just saw a video of an animal knowing that they were dealing with a very, very beautiful, pure soul, which says an awful lot about you. But the other thing that really touched me about that story that you shared is the fact that the foster mother physically started to lactate for the calf that wasn't even hers.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was possible. I've not even seen that documented in humans. It's just amazing. She clearly loved that baby so much that she produced her own milk for it. It's just incredible.
Extraordinary. And you've even got cats. Linda's cat is watching, absolutely amazed at that. And it's, again, it's just the beautiful comments that are coming in. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. It's Ferdinand clearly knew he was in safe hands with you, which is absolutely beautiful. And the fact that it made his carer cry, I mean, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? That's quite incredible. She saw healing taking place.
Yeah, I cried multiple times that day as well. You know, the animals heal us just as much as we're helping to heal them.
Well, I think you're healing a lot of animals along the way, but also people. And you really are shining a beautiful light on the world, which we need desperately at the moment. And before we go, I want to give you the opportunity. Is there any message you've got for? And I'm putting you on the spot here because this guy's is not rehearsed, so there's no right or wrong here. But I dare say you've got a message for folks, and I know, you know, anything you want to share before we go.
I guess knowing that kind of whatever it is your skill set is, whether that be a scientist, accountant, a lawyer, whatever profession you're in, whatever age you are, whatever it is you're doing, we can all be change makers. We can all live our lives in a way which inspires the world to be a kinder, happier, greener place to be in. Whatever background you're from, whatever your mindset is, there's something that we can all do to make a difference.
Yeah, you see, I knew you'd have something valuable to say. Thank you for that. And Roxy, thank you for everything you're doing from the bottom of my heart. And as I say, I mean, I'm leaving your Facebook page up there for people to see, because I want people to be able to get on and follow you and keep in touch with what you're doing and the incredible work that you've already done and continue to do. But the comments are just rolling in adoration of you. and rightly so. Rightly so. I really felt that it was important to give you this platform, because you, as I said in my introduction to you on Facebook a couple of days ago, you for me, you epitomize the words to walk gently through this world. That's what you exude, and I think that's an incredibly powerful thing. So aside from all of the beautiful things that you've talked about, the tangible filmmaking, photography, Zephyr, all of this stuff that you're doing, which is tangible and measurable, there's the immeasurable and I think invaluable value that you bring to the world with your energy. You're walking very gently through the world, being absolutely driven by love, compassion, empathy, and all things that are so beautiful and good in the world that we need desperately. So thank you for that, as well as everything else.
I'm so glad to have connected with you and been able to share these stories with you as well.
Well, we're enormously great. I'm grateful to Giles, because Giles retweeted your Indiegogo campaign, and I didn't know you a month or so ago. So thank you, Giles, who I know is watching and who's responsible for this. And isn't it a beautiful thing, the way the universe does that? You know, when you take purposeful steps from a place of good, from a place of love and compassion, I find that the universe conspires in our favor to take care of some of the details that we couldn't possibly hope to preconceive. And here we are. And who knows where this might lead? You know, we've got an incredibly powerful group of people we're a growing community. You know, our tribe is growing by the day. And as we've said all along through these broadcasts, now is the time more than ever. Now more than ever, people are receptive to this because of the nature of what's happening with the pandemic, because of the nature of the origins of this virus. There's this receptiveness, this willingness and open-mindedness to at least entertain the possibility that we have to review our relationship with animals. And with people like you at the helm, I don't doubt that we can achieve great things. So thank you again. And before we say a final goodbye for today, I want to just let you know that on Tuesday, what are we now? So who else is struggling with the days of I really struggle with the days. Today's Sunday, I think, and Tuesday. Anyway, 48 hours from now, whatever that will be, Tuesday, I will be honored to host a conversation with my very dear friend, another absolute hero from the world of conservation. Someone, in fact, who literally has conservation and compassion running through her veins. And that is Georgina Peanut Lamb, affectionately known as Peanut. She's the CEO of the David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation, and she's actually David Shepherd's granddaughter. She'll be joining me on Tuesday at 7 p.m. I also have guests lined up for Thursday and Saturday, and I cannot wait to tell you who they are, but I can wait. That's the whole point. I'm not going to tell you because I want there to be some suspense. But I'm so excited to introduce you to them. And we have all the way through the following week as well. And then even more wonderful, exciting guests that I can't wait to introduce you to. So please join me Tuesday. So 47 hours from now, 7 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. Pacific. I think that's 2 p.m. Eastern, where I'll be talking to Peanut Lamb, CEO of David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation. But for now, you kind of leave me speechless, Roxy, as do a lot of you know, there's lots of comments coming through. Everyone adores you, as do I, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being you and for continuing to shine your beautiful light into the world.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you so much everyone else for your lovely comments as well. It really does mean a lot.
Thank you, Roxy. Okay, guys, spread the love, stay safe, and we'll see you Tuesday. Bye.